Adam, welcome back. The Buffs are a third of the way through spring practices already. This has gone by quick. We're 5 practices in. Does it feel like we're a third of the way through? I mean, it's gone by quick.
It doesn't, because we're still doing it virtually now. Friday, the local media folks that have covered each spring practice are going to get invited in to watch the scrimmage. I think getting back out there to see this team run around and watch a scrimmage is going to make it feel like we're truly in spring ball here. I try to remember the last time we actually got to go see a practice. It wouldn't have been obviously any time under Carl Durrell. Maybe Mel Tucker early during their preseason camp is the last time we were in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was probably August of that 2019 season. There was probably a scrimmage at Folsom. I don't even know if I could remember how to get to Franklin Field, to be honest with you. I'm going to have to look up directions. Just kidding. But it's been a while. It'll be nice to get out there. We'll see, what they look like, but it's going to be nice. I'm excited to get out there and actually watch some football in person, which we got to do a little bit in the fall, but it'll be fun to see them on the practice field.
No doubt. It was interesting. Carl Durrell on Monday came out and admitted, hey, this was a rough practice. And the fans were actually excited about that, because when a head coach comes out and shows that they're being honest about what the product that they're seeing on the field, it makes them feel like other days when the coach is talking positively about the team, that things are actually positive. So it's kind of interesting. Obviously Carl Durrell was frustrated on Monday, but the fan base kind of liked the honesty that he gave in terms of giving an honest portrayal of what happened out there on the practice fields.
Yeah, I agree. And, I don't know if you remember, but the first time Mel Tucker ever did that was on a Monday as well. And the Buffs were coming off of a weekend, and it had all been kind of rosy. And he comes off of a Monday and says, this was not good. I mean, we could hear him yelling through the gates, and, says it wasn't good. And they were better that next Wednesday. So, or whatever the next practice was. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have a bad practice every now and then. I think that a lot of times you can, learn about your team if you're the coach, and get a more of a barometer for your team coming off of a bad practice and just see how they respond. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, especially in spring. But I agree. I think it's good for us, good for fans to hear every once in a while that they had a bad practice, because it does confirm, okay, maybe when things are going well, and when he says things are going well, he actually means it. So I think Carl Durrell's been pretty honest with us, and he was certainly honest on Monday.
And even after the Alamo Bowl, we were kind of frustrated that players weren't allowed for interviews, but that showed just, hey, we're not happy just to be in the Alamo Bowl. We got blown out today. I'm not happy about that. And so it's clear that Carl Durrell is trying to raise the expectations of this program.
Yeah, and he has mentioned a few times even since then that, when I talked to him, I think in February, something like that, they had a nice 4-0 start. He's like, it's the 2 losses at the end of the season that bother me. I mean, that's what's kind of consuming him is, those 2 losses that kind of expose the Buffs that there's a long way to go here. And he does have high expectations, and he should. I mean, he's you got to remember, where he's coming from. The NFL, where guys are polished players, a little bit more polished players than he's got right now, and so he wants to see them get there. And I think there's probably some times that people around him have to dial him back, say, you got to remember, these are 18, 19-year-olds, but he still has that high expectation. And I think this team is starting to learn that. And it sounds like a thing like Monday is more so you got a mix of some new guys now that don't quite understand the standard yet. And at some point, these older guys are going to, make that standard clear to the young guys, and those practices will be few and far between.
Yeah. What were your other takeaways from our interviews on Monday?
Yeah, we got a chance to talk to Colby Purcell. He's been a solid lineman for the Buffs, over the last few years. Looking through his bio this week, I can't believe how long he's been here.
He gray shirted too, so
yeah,
he's been part of this program for a long time.
He graduated high school about when I did, I think. I've always kind of viewed him as a younger player, but he's been here for a long time now, and he's still only technically a junior this next year. He's got 2 years left he can play. So I like Colby. I think he's I don't know what's going to shake out with that offensive line, but I like him at center. I didn't think he played particularly well at guard in the 2018 season, I believe it was, or 2019, whatever year he played guard. I think he's better as a center. So we'll see there, but it sounds like he's healthy. And, he was talking a lot about some of the young guys stepping up. And there's not a whole lot of linemen that are participating this spring, but it sounds like a guy like Josh Gines is having a good spring. And that's good to see because Josh got a chance to play a little bit of center this last year. So I think Colby's going to be one of the leaders of that line.
Yeah, he was really insightful in his answers. We've got video up with his address to the media. If you haven't watched that yet, it's pretty impressive just how insightful he was. I'm anxious to see on Friday just how the rotations are working there on the offensive line. Obviously, right tackle is up for grabs with Frank Phillip moving over to the left side. Is Jake Wiley, we've heard his name come up a little bit. Is he running strictly with the ones? Or are they rotating guys there? Could Kanan Ray move out to right tackle? Is Valentin Sen, an option there? That's one of the spots that I'm kind of anxious to watch here with these upcoming scrimmages.
Yeah, an offensive line is going to be a hard one to get a good gauge on what their fall rotations are going to look like because there's so many guys out. I mean, Casey Roddick's not participating. There's a few guys that are not participating, but I am interested to see Valentin Sen and Jake Wiley, Kanan Ray. I want to see Jared Christian Lichtenhand to see. This is the tallest player in CU history, listed at 6'10", and looking at a couple of pictures, that's a beast. I want to see that guy in person. So,
what would Carl Drill said? What's his nickname? The Tank.
The Tank. His nickname? Yeah, call him a tall drink of water. I'm interested to see him, but I think that line. I think this is a good spring for those linemen, Adam, in that there's a lot of those young guys that are getting a chance to get some quality reps. Guys like Carson Lee that I think fans are excited about, but maybe he's a year away. I don't know, but I think there's some valuable reps for guys like that.
Yeah, and maybe they think to bring in a transfer at tackle to further bolster that depth there because we've heard that Sen and Ray are playing both guard and tackle. Do they have enough depth there at tackle? Because last year the injuries started to mount up with that group, and you maybe want a little bit more depth there at tackle going into the season.
Yeah, I think that's if there's a spot, I would guess they're going to look for a couple of spots. But I think if there's one spot that might be a need right now, it might be tackle. I don't think there's any other needs. Do you?
Safety, I think, on defense.
Safety, yeah.
Yeah, for depth purposes. Yeah. Yeah, you like who's maybe going to line up there as the starters at safety, but and you like some of the potential of the guys behind them. Trustin Oliver, we've heard, is playing at safety this spring. We're quite sure exactly where he was going to factor in, but if you're going to use that star back a lot out there, you've got three safety types out there a lot of the time, and I just don't know if they have quite enough depth, especially if injuries happen there.
Yeah, because they need to have guys like Torrin Pittman, step up and people like that step into that safety role. So, yeah, Trustin is another one I'm looking forward to seeing where he lines up on Friday because he's one that you and I have talked about it before. He's got such a big frame and he's such a good personality. I'm curious to see where he fits in on this defense. I think he can play, both safety spots. He could be a star. I think he can help this team right away, but I'm curious to see where he lines up.
Another guy in the secondary I'm anxious to watch is Tariq Luckett. He's almost kind of a forgotten man. Maurice Bell actually mentioned him in an interview with us as a cornerback that's impressed him. He was hurt all of last year, but you think a year ago we were kind of penciling him in as a potential starter because we heard a lot about his potential. He was a converted receiver his first year on campus, and heard he had all the potential in the world, just had to learn the technique there. So anxious to see where his development has come. If he's ready to go, you've got Nigel Bethel as a backup there as well. Christian Gonzalez has made another step. We've heard he's more aggressive in coverage. Another guy that Maurice Bell says has really elevated his game. Obviously, Mekhi Blackman played well. That's a group, if Luckett can step up and be really good, that's looking pretty deep. You got Jalen Stryker there as well. So that's a group that, unlike safety where I'm a little concerned about the depth corner, I really like the depth there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Maurice mentioned Jalen Stryker as well. I'm curious to see how much Mekhi is doing. I don't know if you watched the Discovering Darrell event this week, but Mekhi was on there, and he had a little splint on one of his fingers. So I don't know if he broke a finger. We'll see if he's participating. But I do like the depth there. And the way Mekhi played last year, Mekhi was very underrated. I mean, we've talked a lot about Carson Wells and how he didn't get very much publicity, which I don't know how he didn't get all conference, when you lead the country in tackles for loss. But the other guy that I thought was very underrated was Mackay. I thought he played really well last year. And between him and Christian Gonzalez growing up, I think those two guys are pretty solid as starters. I like that group, and I like the backup group. So I agree with you. I'm not as concerned about that group as I am about safety as far as depth.
Well, Mekhi Blackmon's probably underrated just because you didn't notice him a ton, right? If you're doing your job as a quarterback, you're not going to get a whole lot of notoriety. I know he had that one PI call late in the game, but I mean, as a corner out there, you're going to have a few of those moments throughout the year. There's no way around that. Generally, he played about as well as you can expect a starting cornerback to.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the more pleasant surprises of this last season. So, we'll see if he can continue that. He's always been kind of a littler guy, but I think he played really well. And you're right, you didn't notice him a lot because he kind of shut things down. This week we also got a chance to talk to both coordinators as well as Maurice Bell. So there was a lot of offense talk on Wednesday, Adam, a lot of receiver talk. So receiver is an interesting group because there's production coming back, but it really feels like with KD Nixon moving on, transferring to USC, it's sort of a turning of the page a little bit, and Darren Chiaverini mentioned this, that, KD Nixon was such an alpha male in that room that he kind of dominated the room with his personality. And with that gone, it's allowing some other guys, I think, to step up as leaders. So it feels like there's even though there's a lot of guys there that we've seen for a while, it still feels to me like a turning of the page.
What a great situation for CU to kind of get that fresh start at corner because, Chev put it that he kind of owned that room like you alluded to there. He gets to go to USC, it looks like, based on the clips we've seen from out there, that he's doing well with the Trojans. But this is a good situation for CU, too, because when KD came back last year, all of a sudden Dimitri Stanley wasn't getting targeted as much as he probably should have. And Levante Chenault's going to need targets. And Brendan Rice needs more playing time going forward. Montana Lamonius Craig got his feet wet last year. Chiaverini said he took the next step. Chiaverini mentioned Chris Carpenter, who is another kind of forgotten guy that, has all the athleticism in the world, great speed, could kind of be in that mix there. I think it's slot receiver. Maurice Bell has now been in the program for 5 years. We've heard a lot of good things about what he's done in practice. Can he put it into more consistent production? Daniel Arias, I know a lot of CU fans maybe want to give up on him, but he's got a lot of talent. And so there's a lot of guys in that group that you want to kind of get into that mix. Keith Miller, who didn't play last year, is a big guy there. So a lot of guys in that group to keep an eye on. Jalen Jackson, you can't forget about him. So that's a group that Chiaverini has recruited so well to that just year over year, you feel good about that. And it was yet again we hear from Chiaverini and we hear from Maurice Bell that Levante Chenault has stepped up as a leader in that room.
Right.
And so that's been impressive. Yeah, I didn't quite know what to expect about Levante Chenault going forward, and all the reports out of spring ball have been very positive about him, especially just the maturity that he's shown. We hear that over and over again through these first 5 practices.
Well, and we've talked about this before, but with the offseason that he's had and some of the things he's had, a guy like Levante Chenault can go one of two ways, right? They can really either kind of ruin him a little bit and kind of derail his career, or it can strengthen him. And it sounds like he's gone the positive way, to where he's trying to turn things around, be a leader. And Chiaverini was talking about he's a better route runner than Laviska was, and certainly they're different types of players and different types of athletes, but a better route runner. And Chev has told me since Levante was a true freshman that he's a better wide receiver than Laviska. And he showed some of that last year. Dimitri Stanley, by the way, Adam, this week Carl Durrell mentioned, you and I talked about it so much during the season, but Durrell said, hey, we didn't give him the ball enough last year. And you and I talked about why are they not giving the ball to Dimitri Stanley? He has that big game against Stanford, then it was almost nothing. But Durrell mentioned that we want to get him more targets. And so it'll be interesting to see that receiver group. And one quick thing, I was chatting with a USC reporter the other day. KD Nixon is playing almost exclusively out of the slot, which is good for him. And that was another thing we talked about for years. It's like, why is he not a slot receiver at Colorado? I thought he was, misplaced as an outside receiver here. He sounds like he's playing exclusively in the slot. Dropped a big pass the other day. but
I don't
had a
think
big touchdown.
I don't think KD wanted to play slot here, right? Wasn't that the
Right.
thing?
I think that's part of it. Yeah. But it
And
sounds like at USC, when you're going in there, maybe not much of a choice that, hey, you can come here, but you're going to be a slot receiver.
yeah, it was. With Dimitri Stanley, it was interesting. Cheverini was talking about him, and he said, "Hey, we want to see that burst that we saw in the Stanford game every day." It sounds like doesn't show up consistently every day, but that's what we as a media and fans see, and so it's very tantalizing because he has that burst that not a lot of guys in the country do, and so he's going to be running track a little bit here now this spring. So. Yeah, definitely hope to see him put it all together because he does deserve more touches if he does bring it consistently every day in practice.
Yeah, Chev used the term that Dimitri teases us with his speed, and that he doesn't turn it on all the time. But, Chev also talked a lot about the quarterbacks, and we've heard so much about Brendan Lewis, so far this spring. And I wanted to ask him about JT Shrout, and it sounds like JT is doing really well also. And, there's so much excitement about Brendan Lewis. I think there's some, we're talking about a few forgotten guys. Even though he's a newcomer, I feel like there's some pushing to the back burner of JT Shrout here because I think a lot of people are assuming this is going to be Brendan Lewis or Sam Neuer. Shrout is a guy outside of Sam Neuer has the most experience on this team. He's actually started a game in the SEC. He's played against Texas A&M, who the Buffs play in week 2. So, I don't discount JT Shrout at all.
No, he does need that one-time transfer rule to get approved, which it sounds like it will. Yep. And so most likely he will be eligible to play this year. He's got great arm talent. Heard Cheverini talk about the poise he has in the huddle, which is good. The thing with him, with JT Shrout, it all comes down to decision-making. Dating back to his high school career, he threw a lot of picks in Tennessee. That's what got him pulled in a couple games. If he can limit bad decisions, he's got a high ceiling. There's a lot of talent there. That's just the major question mark that you have with him going forward.
One quick thought I had, and this will be more of a discussion later if it needs to be, but if that transfer rule is not passed, do the Buffs need to go out and try to find a quarterback that can play this year? Because do you want to go into the season with Sam Neuer coming off a shoulder injury, Brendan Lewis, and Drew Carter?
Yeah, I guess that's a discussion we'll come to if that's the case. It sounds like that rule is going to get approved. Yeah, and so many guys have entered the transfer portal assuming that's going to take hold. If it doesn't, I guess maybe, but you also don't want to bring in somebody. It's going to be hard to bring in somebody of talent with that guy knowing that they're probably going to be a third-string quarterback this year, right?
Yeah. And it's probably a moot point because I agree with you. I think it is going to get passed, but it's just kind of interesting. If it doesn't, the Buffs are in an interesting situation because I think JT brings that experience that you want.
Grant Cicerone is getting some reps in there, so I don't know. Maybe he could be an emergency option there. I don't know. We haven't heard quite enough about him.
Yeah. So, we'll see. It sounds like they're voting on April 15th, which is next week, so we should know in about a week whether JT is eligible or not. But any other thing you want to talk about going into this scrimmage on Friday?
Well, Maurice Bell, we had a chance to talk to him, and he said that he should have had 3 touchdowns last year on kick returns. He's still in that role. I do remember a couple times where he was one shoestring tackle away from really breaking a big one. So I like him in that role. I think he would be a good option there again at kick returner. Dimitri Stanley said that he's still fielding punts. What are your thoughts on Antonio Alfano transferring to Independence Community College? Last chance you there.
Yeah, I hope it works out for him. We've talked about him. I don't think either of us are surprised that he's never going to play it down at CU. For Antonio, I think that it truly is last chance for him. He's been at 2 schools now and has not played it down in college football. So I personally hope he just goes out there, gets with the right people that can get him on track academically and medically and football-wise, and get things going in the right direction, and turn that into a D1 scholarship down the road. And I wish him nothing but the best, but I think that's it's probably a logical step for him. I didn't think he was going to wind up at a 4-year school, and if he did, probably like an FCS type of school. So I think this is a good spot for him.
the young man just needs to stop pointing fingers. I know he had a comment on social media after Blaine Toll, the signing was announced. You know, I know he had a tough medical condition, and you hope the best for his physical health going forward. But the issues at CU were happening long before that problem arose. And if he can stop looking outward and kind of look inward in terms of self-improvement, and I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
But not if he's going to continue to go on social media and blame other people for his issues.
Yeah, and hey, we're not there, and so I don't discount some of the things, discount everything he's saying. Maybe there's some issues there, but I'm just one who believes that when things repeatedly happen to a person, the common denominating factor there is that person. And Antonio, I've had a good rapport with him, and we've chatted a lot. We've talked a few times and chatted several times on social media. I think he's got a good heart when it all comes down to it. But he just needs to get on the right path, and I hope that this is the right path for him.
And it's my fault, but maybe that's the last time we need to mention Antonio Alfano.
Well, we'll see. If he goes out and really plays well at Independence College, then maybe we'll bring him up again. But I'm like you, though. I root for him. I would love to see him, playing at a 4-year school someday and reaching that dream of playing in the NFL. Because I think if that happens, that means he did get things turned around. And honestly, fans love players and teams, things like that. But I don't know about you, Adam, but I root for people. You get to know the people. And I just hope as a person he can get things going. And same, with all these guys like Lavonte, it'll be a great story if Lavonte continues this path he's on, becomes a leader, becomes one of the top receivers, and goes to the NFL. You look back at some of the issues he's had and say, wow, that guy really turned it around. We always love redemption stories. So it sounds like we're seeing a little bit of that with Lavonte, and hopefully we're seeing that with Antonio as well.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it tomorrow. Get to watch some football. That'll be nice.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and we'll be back afterwards to talk about it.